And of course, we're keeping you up to date with all that's happening in the world of football, building up to the new season and the transfer news as well. Dharma Sheth is here with us. I'm going to start with some news from Arsenal. How close is a deal for Riccardo Calafiori?
Good pronunciation, that, Hayley. Look at this, 35 days to go. 5 weeks today is deadline day. So clubs got to start getting a move on to get their deals done, I think. But Arsenal are making moves. We do know that Riccardo Calafiori, that deal between Arsenal and Bologna has been agreed. 50 million euros all in. But it is developing today because we're expecting Calafiori in London at some point today for his Arsenal medical, all being well. And once he's completed that medical, it's expected that he will then fly to the United States of America to join the rest of the Arsenal squad because they're out there for their pre-season tour of the States. So it's getting very, very close now, this one. Everything is done club to club. Everything seems to have been done, agreed in principle, club to player. It's now just the formalities of the medical, signing off on those personal terms, and then Calafiori will be an Arsenal player.
OK, what about outgoings from Arsenal then? A fair few homegrown talents have been linked with moves away from the club, haven't they?
Yeah, so we're talking about Calafiori potentially going to the United States. A player who's still there with the Arsenal squad is Smith Rowe. He is still waiting for that full agreement between Arsenal and Fulham over a deal that's worth around £35 million. We think it's an initial £27 million that Fulham will pay, plus £8 million in performance-related add-ons. But he's just waiting for that final agreement between the two clubs because all sorts of talks have to take place with a big deal like that. It's a Fulham club transfer record. It would be a record sale, equaling record sale for Arsenal. So he's just sitting tight at the moment. He was kept out of any action for their first pre-season game against Bournemouth the other night because Mikel Arteta said, look, there is stuff going on in the background, which we do know is this deal with Fulham. But once he gets that permission, once that full agreement is made, it's expected he'll fly from the US back to London for a medical with Fulham. They actually fly out next week for a pre-season training camp in Portugal, and it hasn't been ruled out Smith Rowe may still play a part in that pre-season training camp. As far as a couple of other players are concerned at Arsenal, Reiss Nelson and Eddie Nketiah. Let's start with Eddie Nketiah. He's been linked with a move to Marseille. However, there is a big gap in valuation between what Arsenal want for Eddie Nketiah and what Marseille are prepared to pay. Remember, Marseille managed now by Roberto De Zerbi. They've already made a couple of signings from the Premier League in this transfer window. Now we're just waiting to see if Marseille are going to focus on other targets or if indeed they're going to go back to Arsenal with an improved offer that may make Arsenal turn their head with regard to Nketiah. He's played in their first pre-season game against Bournemouth. So as far as Arsenal are concerned, he remains an Arsenal player until they get a deal that is suitable for the player, but more importantly, the club as well. Reiss Nelson is another player who did feature in that game against Bournemouth. We're told, and we've been saying throughout the window, that he wants to assess all of his options because the primary motivation for Reiss Nelson, for Nketiah, for Emile Smith Rowe is regular first-team football, which they're not seemingly going to get at Arsenal, even though Mikel Arteta did praise the attitude of Reiss Nelson and Nketiah during that game against Bournemouth. We know that Leicester City have been in talks with Arsenal over a potential deal. West Ham United have shown interest during this transfer window as well. As yet, no formal offer. But we expect that one to maybe accelerate a little bit more once the US tour with Arsenal is over in a week or so.
OK. Let's talk West Ham. They're also hoping to add a player to their squad, a big player. What can you tell us about John Duran?
Yeah, this is their primary target now as far as a forward player is concerned for West Ham United. And the proposal that we heard about earlier on this week that they'd made to Aston Villa was cash plus their 18-year-old academy player, highly rated academy player, Lewis Orford. Now, that was met by quite a bit of pushback on social media by West Ham fans, a section of West Ham fans who, as much excitement as there is regarding a potential arrival of John Duran, they don't want to see one of their own, if you like, who's been at the club since 5 years old, leave the club. Now, I've also been told now that while West Ham, that's the proposal that West Ham have put to Aston Villa, it hasn't been agreed. And it hasn't been ruled out that West Ham will now go in with a cash offer only for John Duran, which they have been trying to do earlier on in this transfer window, but haven't been able to find an agreement because there has been that gap in valuation, while keeping Lewis Orford at West Ham United. So that option, I'm told, has not been ruled out at this stage. Even though the initial proposal that we've got has been cash plus player, it could turn into just a straight cash deal with West Ham United, maybe keeping Lewis Orford at the club.
OK, anything else? Any other incomings for West Ham?
Yeah, so we know that the Bayern Munich right-back, Nusayr Mazraoui, there's been a deal that's agreed in principle between West Ham United and Bayern Munich. It's worth 19.5 million euros. It's an initial 16 million euros plus 3.5 million euros in performance-related add-ons. That man there, Mazraoui, is just waiting now for the green light to travel to London to take that medical. But while there's still details of that deal between the two clubs to sort, he still cannot officially do that medical and finalise those personal terms. But once he gets the green light, he will do that medical. And West Ham United are currently out in the United States of America just now, and it hasn't been ruled out that Mazraoui can still yet play a part for West Ham United in that tour, provided in the next 2 or 3 days this deal can be finalised.